Happy Friday. I am going through a little bit of a personal practice again and just kind of guiding you along with me. I just got done a week of treating patients and from my personal realm, I'm also doing a 10-day detox right now. So there's a lot of personal healing going on while I'm interacting with other patients and their healing. So instead of going home for the weekend and feeling like I'm harboring a lot of that with me, I'm going to do this practice to use that excess energy to transmute it into physical fuel, as well as some exploratory movement, like I said, for my personal healing, and just to kind of seal the week. So when I leave this space, anything that was kicked up here that doesn't belong to me stays here, and when I come back in, I'll be fresh and I'll be able to cleanse this area as well. So this type of practice, as I've been going through this 10-day liver detoxification, it's not diet restricted, it's just diet guided, a lot of supplements, so I'm feeling a lot of chaos through the abdomen and the GI area, and then a lot of physical tension through my low back. I did a yoga practice yesterday that was really forward fold heavy. So instead of avoiding forward folds today, I want to re-enter that space with this practice, maybe a little bit more mindful with my own pace and cues. I'm also using yoga every time I want to have like a coffee or something. I'm moving instead, and I'm noticing the mindless urges of maybe just a comfort, a quick, tangible comfort, as something that's been masking physical discomfort or emotional discomfort that's coming out as a physicality. So, getting into this practice, I do have a couple blocks and a strap with me. I'm not 100% sure if we're going to use it. We'll find out as we go. But if you know that for deep folds or any type of balanced twisting postures, you do like that aid, please have 2 blocks nearby. We are going to start in a high kneeling posture. And as you are, tuck the toes underneath, so even the 5th toe is going to get caught. And you can feel a nice stretch through the arching position, rolling the shoulders back. If the ribs are flared forward, go ahead and push them backwards so the ribs are neutral. That's not sucking in, keeping the belly nice and neutral, just tucking it underneath, rolling the shoulders, figuring out how the mid-back is feeling today as you show up on the mat, how the hips are feeling. Really get a good arch stretch as you do this as well. And then allowing not just the whole pelvis, but the whole back to open into an extension and close. Open as you inhale, close as you exhale. And I'm almost pressing up the tailbone and arching. Inhale one more time. Exhale, closing. Straight fingertips. Drop the hair from side to side. I'm trying to clear the heels right now, so you're using your quads to lift up just a little bit. Good, and then relax through there. Dropping the hands down really close to your knees this time, so not necessarily tabletop. Really close to your knees. Push your knees forward into the backs of the wrist. And what you're going to have to use then is the pelvic floor to lift you up and balance on the hands. So the knees are hovering about 2 inches, using the back of my arms, the shoulder blade muscles to press down, and the pelvic floor to lift as you breathe and drop down. Maybe rearrange the wrists a little bit closer, so now you know where we're going. Toes are still tucked. Inhale, exhale, shift forward and lift a little bit higher now. Knees are coming up to the mid, lower arm. Low back is pushing up to the ceiling. Breathing into the areas I've had tension, little spasms actually since that flexion focused practice. And release. Not afraid to put more pressure into that area, just being mindful and observing the message the back is trying to tell me. Good, one more time. Inhale, shift forward, press through the heels, guide the knees all the way up to the elbows. Use that body weight, shift forward, lift your hips, almost like we're going into crow, but not yet. Breathing now more through the TL junction, where your mid-back meets your low back. And lower. Woo, get a little bit of a core workout here too, helping fatigue out those muscles that I may have depended on too much yesterday. If you've ever taken a forward fold focused class, you know it's a lot of pulling yourself forward, stressing through the hamstrings, shaking and all the ugly. And I want to honor those sensations, but understand the body was trying to tell us that It just wasn't maybe the pace or the appropriate day for that kind of class for our shape. Last time, I'm going to tuck the toes underneath, get a little bit closer to my wrist, trying to get a little bit of flight, big wide fingertips, shifting forward, lifting the elbows up, going into actually crow right away. Lifting the low back. Really narrow crow. And lowering. Opening the feet wide, going into Malasana. So Malasana is your Yogi Squats. You're going to have toes faced outward, heels in, pushing the elbows away. Try not to hunch and slouch into this pose. Really tall, low back, building the spine all the way up to the back of the neck. Going to bring the chin to your chest. Anywhere you feel tight in the back of the neck, push through that area as if you're trying to get it away from your hands. Make more space between your hands and your spine. Shift side to side if you can. Add a little, let the heel come up. Feeling a nice stretch through the inner groin as we continue to get warm. And then coming up on the toes. Inhale. Exhale, lower. Inhale. Exhale, lower. One more time. Inhale and hold. Drop the hips as low as you can. Feeling your hips come through in line with the heels. Shoulder blades come back to even it out. And drop all the way. Let the hands come forward. Really drop into the heels like you're going to fall backward. Use this imaginary rope in the front to keep you from falling. 3, 2, and relax. Drop your right knee open wide. So you're going to come into almost a modified pigeon. So, or sitting pretty if you've heard it described this way. So right knee is on the outside of your mat. The foot's coming in, not necessarily connected to your left quad yet. And the back hip is going to be tiered behind you. Rotate the torso so it's square to the front of the mat. Left hip is the focus in this position. You're going to drive the left hip forward, straightening through the hip, squeezing the glute. Relax. Pump it again. And relax. Drive the hip. Hold this contraction in the glute and the hip forward for 3. Zip up the front. 2. 1. Keep your hip focused there. Left heel is going to come off the ground, rotating the knee down. Drop it. Rotating the knee down. Drop. Keep going. Try not to shift your weight too far over onto the right hip. Keep driving through your left hip. Last one, and hold for 3, 2, 1. I'm actually going to reach around, grab the inside of that heel, lock your ankle out at 90-90. Don't let your ankle bend. And we're just going to open the hip. Open the hip. You'll feel a lot of collapsing through your spine. It's okay as long as you have pain, as long as your hips are squared and even to the front. Keep pushing down on the outside of your right knee. So it's true hip internal rotation. I'm also breathing into this collapsing space, trying to send pressure. Find a nice tight area. Breathing into that for 3, 2, 1. Binding through the big toe, pulling the leg around to the front. Evening that out by offering some straight leg extension, shifting weight onto the back of the right hip. Lifting knee to chest as high as you can. Pulling around to the front, switching hands, maybe grabbing with both hands a little bit higher for 3, 2, let the head fold. Inhale, tall. Exhale, fold. Once more. Exhale, fold as high as you can. Drop the leg forward. Lean back, right hand. Left arm comes up towards the ceiling. Press the hips up and open. Arching through that tight area we just compressed. Look down at the right hand, pivot around to side plank. So right foot comes down, left arm up in the air, strong side plank. 4, 3, 2, 1. Top hand's going to reach forward. Lift the left leg in the air. Step behind you for wild thing or reverse. Opening into your flip dog. Let the low back extend. Strong point through the front toe. Flipping around. Let's go into our Vinyasa from here. So find your facing the back of the mat. Tall inhale on your plank. Bend the elbows, chaturanga, all the way down, flipping to the tops of the feet. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, strong hip flexor plank for 3, 2, 1. Flip the toes, downward facing dog. Pedaling through your first dog. Hopefully you're already feeling a little warm. We're not messing around. We're kind of getting right to the points of conflict in the body, in these poses and transitions. Strong pressure through the arch on the left foot as your hips shift over to the right. Switch sides. Hip shift over to the left. Let the whole the outer arch come down to the ground. Big toe on the right. Big contact with the inner heel. 3-legged dog. Lift your left foot up in the air. Pull the heel an inch closer to your head. If you've ever taken a Kundalini class, we're going to use a little bit of a butt kick here with your breath. So it's a slowly lower. Inhale your right leg up. Pull the heel an inch closer to your head. Big breath here. Exhale, breath of fire. Slowly lower. Inhale up to the toes. Exhale, lower. Inhale, flow. High plank. Exhale, lower. Flip the toes. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, release. One more time. Exhale, lower. Pressing back to high hands and knees. Bringing your left knee forward, facing the back of the mat still. And then we're going to do the sitting pretty on the opposite side. Back right leg is going to be stanced behind you. It may feel different on the side. If you're leaning really far away from that right hip, maybe bring the knee further forward so you can sink down and feel even sitting bones. I'm going to try to bring mine a little bit behind. And while we're in this position, torso is turning to square of the back of the mat. Using your right hip, dive the hip forward, come off of it. Push through the inside of that right knee to drive your hip. Release. Keep going. As you're doing this, you'll feel a lot of pressure also on the outside of your left knee. That's a contact point, stimulating proper chains in our system. One more time. You're going to press and drive the hip forward. Stay far forward as you can. Look down at your right ankle. Try to lift it off the ground and back down. You may not clear the ground a lot. I don't have a lot of clearance on this side. It's okay. I know I need a little bit of mobility. Your hips, your whole torso is going to want to shift to the left. Keep it up in line as much as you can. 3, 2, 1. Hold it up in the air. Drive your hip forward. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to come around, lock the ankle out at 90-90 so your ankle's not rolling. I'm going to lift into internal rotation. Find a comfortable angle so you can actually feel this. If you're doing a lot of dunking and lateral bending through the back here, upright through the body, inhale into that collapsible area. Don't forget about your hip drive. And find a safe internal rotation for your hip. Breathe into that pressure. Reaching around, we're going to bind fingers to the big toe, Coming around to the front with that straight leg, shooting off a little bit out to the side still, in the scapular plane, about 45 degrees. Strong pressure on the outside of your left leg, coming around to the front, pulling the whole chain back toward your torso as your torso uprights. Add a second hand for contact. We're going to do a little bit of lifting. Exhale, release. Inhale, tall spine. Exhale. Once more. Inhale. 3, 2, 1. Slowly lower that leg down. Shake it out. Going forward a little bit here. Make sure you're not, if you're spasming or anything through the hip, you can roll it open and give yourself that upright for just a few breaths. Let that leg go in front. Right hand's going to reach behind, pushing this hip up in the air just to open. I'll try to face you this time. Drop the hips. I'm going to turn the opposite direction. Let your left hand go behind you. You can be on the outside of your left knee, pushing the hips up in the air. Let the arm come overhead. 4, 3, 2, 1. Look at the back of your mat. Your hand's going to stay in the air. Straighten your left leg for a side plank. We'll go into it a little bit differently this time. Strong left side plank. Bring your right foot behind for wild thing or flipping your dog. Look down at the hand, slowly come all the way back around. Find your high plank. 3 breaths in your strong plank. Bend the knees, shift your hips back really far away from your hands. Try not to move the hands, so try to get as much traction as you can. It's called bear pose. Walk the feet out a little bit wider, lift the hips. Strong gully, no gully in between your mid-back. So push your ears in line with the shoulders. Fill the front pant line with your breath. Lift your right heel off the ground, about a foot width height. We're going to pivot on the right hand, so turning the left foot, right leg's going to come underneath and hold in this modified side plank. So we're going right back to bear pose. Rotate slow, controlled, back to bear. One more time, same thing, now you know where we're going. Lift the right heel, let go of the left hand. Pivoting, pivoting, slow, controlled on the inside of the left foot. Kick your right foot forward. Touching the foot. Inhale. Exhale, open. Inhale. Exhale, open. Left hand goes down. Right leg, 3-legged dog. Exhale, release. Maybe re-coordinate a little bit. We're going to do bear again. So bending the knees, flat back, flat mid-back, ears in line. Don't be too close that you can't pivot on the foot. Inhale your left foot, foot height off the ground. Let go of the right hand, slowly pivoting to the inside of the right foot. Breath in. Exhale, slow, controlled, coming back to bear pose. Inhale, foot off the ground. Exhale, slow, controlled, coming into the side plank, straighten the leg. If you need to walk the other foot out. 3, 2, 1. Inhale, straight arm. Exhale, touch the foot. Inhale, open. Exhale, touch. Last time, inhale. Exhale, touch. Inhale, 3-legged dog. Exhale, lower. Find your safe downward dog. Just whatever comfortable distance you like. Shifting the hips side to side. Let your left foot come behind the right foot for just a moment. Awkward IT bend. Stretch, maybe get a little closer. Release the head and the shoulders. Go back to it. Switching sides. Strong left foot in your down dog. Right foot goes behind. That's not a stretch for you. You can come a little closer with the hands. Walk back out to your down dog distance. Downward facing dog. Roll forward to high plank. Exhale, drop the knees. Child's pose. Up on your knees, almost like a puppy pose. Release to the tops of the feet. Slowly roll all the way up to our easy sit. Woo. Shake off that excess. We stirred up a lot in those powerful poses, very integrated poses. Super coordinated as well. Half rehab, half yoga. That's okay, that's my style. Harder to explain, but once you can go back and play them over again, you can mimic those movements and add them into your CrossFit workout or even like a cross-training workout before whatever your sport is. Whew. Okay, so closing postures. Now that we've really opened up some of these systems, maybe not in a stretching sense, but more of an activation sense. We've fatigued out muscles that are tonic, that are being used too much, and we've woken up some of these stabilizing slings and stabilizing muscles. So we'll have new access to maybe a position that we wouldn't have prior to class already. I have like a general fatigue in my back. It doesn't feel vulnerable, it doesn't feel that spasmy anymore. It's just, it's been worked, it's been integrated, and now this is the surrender of efforts portion of class. So we're still not trying to hit new barriers we've never done in our life before. This isn't that type of power class. We're just going to that edge, finding peace at our new barrier. So anytime you're in a straddle, seated forward fold, what we're looking for is this sensation of being able to pull the legs back toward your midline. If your extremities feel very far away from their anchored center, the range of motion is going to be limited. It's not going to feel safe enough to allow you to do this. So to be able to fold forward, a couple of things we're going to work on is, one, it's called joint centration, pulling the extremities closer into their hip sockets. And what that does is pulls the midline, activating the front chain, the lateral chains, oblique twisting chains. It's like it feels super locked in right now. Sometimes I point my toes to get to that level. You may have a different build and feel stronger with a flexed toe. If you can't get that sucking in sensation, close your legs a little bit and try at a smaller range. That's more of a true range for you right now. So instead of just pulling ourselves forward with our head and our shoulders, we're going to work our way into it. So slowly winding side to side. Still thinking about that sucking in position, but I'm not pulling really hard. So there's a natural translation, free translation in our ribs over the pelvis. And once you get past that, it'll turn into more of a bend or a rotation. Right now we're just translating, feeling the hamstrings and the groin. They feel okay. I'm going to start forward folding a little bit. And the fold is a flat back. My whole torso is leaning forward instead of rounding through the upper body. So feeling the hip translation. Going to need to get my ankles more involved here. They're already starting to feel a little bit more in charge of the back of my knee. And to help with that, as I lean away, this inner thigh is going to press down and internally rotate just a little bit. Shift opposite side. Extend the knee, internally rotate slightly. Side to side. Good. And we're just creating more and more space. There's this sensation of your ischial tubes, your sitting bones are leaning back away from you as your torso comes forward. So at this level that I've opened both my straddle, this is probably the safest bet for my ankles and my groin. So to really get that fold that I want today, I'm going to revert, come back a little bit closer, close the straddle, and do the same thing we just did and roll down. If you get too close, your knees and your legs are going to want to externally rotate to give you freedom to come forward. So it's just learning and understanding your body's limitations to find that sweet spot in the middle. So instead of, again, working down into this full forward fold, we're going to walk ourselves side to side. This time, turn your torso as square as you can to be in line with one of your legs. Leave your right leg, if you went over to the right, leave your right arm with your right leg. Turn the arm opposite up and towards the ceiling. Creating a bind. The outside of this arm is pushing to the inside of that leg. Really deep hip hinge angle through this joint here. So pulling the whole system in towards the pubic bone, as well as that slight internal rotation of the femur. When you do that, the sacrum is bound to counter-nutate a little bit, giving us actually space to come more forward into flexion. If you don't know what these terms are, just watch my hand. Slowly coming all the way up, staying strong in that leg, turning your torso towards the side we just came from, hip hinging tall to the opposite side. I actually like the arm weight here. What this does is makes me top heavy instead of staying bottom heavy and having to arch. So this top heaviness turns towards the opposite leg. We're going to come on the inside with your arm, push the outside of your arm into that inner leg. Maybe use that top heavy overpressure. Both sitting bones should be even on the ground. You can use that arm to slowly work you more forward as your rib cage rotates open all the way up towards the ceiling. Bring that top hand down to meet your other hand, turn the whole torso. So you are now in line with that leg. I feel like I'm at a little bit dangerous of an angle for my knee right now, so I'm going to slowly abort mission. Close off just a little bit. Bend the knees slightly. Lean forward, push your elbows into your knees, reactivate the midline so the brain knows where our trust and support is coming from. Make sure you can wiggle the extremities. They're starting to relax. They're not so taxed currently. And my heels are pushing down and in, almost like you're trying to dry your foot on a mat. There's traction towards me, decompressing the low back and the whole posterior chain. Come off of it, shake the legs out. And we're at that fatigable point where too much more is going to create a little bit of a strain. So if you feel like you have it in you, you're only going to be here for another 5 or more breaths. So we're not going to go much further past that. So really strong, where we came from, hands overhead, big breath in. Exhale, maybe shimmy your way down a little bit to your full version of forward fold. Seated forward fold. If you'd like a heel bind or a toe bind, focusing that attention to your midline. If you know how to read and trust your body, you'll know that coming out of these poses as intentional, as devoted, and empathetic as getting into them. It's that important. Working on that decompression state a little bit here for the inner knee, the whole interior chain here. Use the elbows to brace out against the knees as the knees close into the elbows. Drop your head from side to side. Make sure we didn't build up any tension in the cervical spine. Turning side to side. Let the knees come wide, palms of the feet come together, opposite rotation for the hips. A little bit of side to side here in this butterfly. Not for a stretch, just for a turning the tone down type of shaking movement. Releasing that sachet translation through the rib cage, adding a little cat-cow. Closing the knees up, pushing your elbows one more time out into the knees, pull the chest through, retract the ears.